Welcome back, everybody. Here's your current events for today, Friday, April 10th, 2020. Governor Gretchen Whitmer did extend the shelter-in-place order until May 1st and added more restrictions. The restrictions are all public and private gatherings of any size is now prohibited. No driving to visit friends, or for that matter, crossing the street to talk with a neighbor. You can be outside for recreational purposes if you maintain social distancing. You can no longer travel within the state to a second home. No longer will residents be allowed to go to cottages up north. Grandpa and Grandma coming back from Florida or other snowbirds are allowed to return to their home. I was seeing on social media that some sheriffs in northern counties were asking people coming from the Metro Detroit area, which is one of the hardest hit areas for the COVID-19 virus in Michigan, to self-quarantine for 14 days. And so they welcomed this new order because they were concerned that if a lot of people from Detroit or other areas of the state that's hard hit with COVID-19, that would overwhelm their smaller hospital systems up north. Whitmer ordered nurseries and garden centers to close, and to close those sections in big box stores. So Meijer, Walmart, Costco, those areas of the stores will be off limit. She's also asked or ordered these stores to limit the number of people in their businesses. No more than 4 people per 1,000 square feet of customer floor space. Again, all these provisions are being used to maintain social distancing to try and flatten the curve. She did not mention, nor did anyone at the state level mention how these new provisions will be enforced. The Federal Reserve announced a new $2.3 trillion round of loans that includes more support for small businesses, consumers, and for the first time for states, cities, and municipalities. $500 billion in loans, $35 billion in credit protections are designed to help state and local government maintain cash flow. As one economist said, the Federal Reserve can do even more since they have a blank check written in invisible ink and have unlimited overdraft protection. As we come out of this pandemic and start dealing with the economy, state and local government is going to be very hard hit, and there will be some pain in the future. Experts have said that the federal government's going to have to stand up and provide help for states to get through in the short term so that the states can continue to provide the minimal of public services. Russia and Saudi Arabia yesterday, during their virtual conference, called off their price war and are now advocating for a 10 million per day cut in oil production for the months of May and June. However, OPEC member Mexico is currently not willing to support the cut, citing concerns about how the cut would apply to their production and concerns over how long the cuts would be in place. Even though the cuts are announced for only May and June, experts believe that a cut in production could last until 2022. Even with the cut in production, experts believe the price of oil will stabilize, but will remain low, mainly due to the lack of demand in the world. Now, the cut in oil prices have taken an impact on the U.S. oil industry. It cost U.S. oil producers more money per barrel to produce than other countries, such as Russia and Saudi Arabia. And so U.S. oil interests have been losing money. This is such a concern that President Trump yesterday called President Putin of Russia and Saudi King Salman, urging them to cut production. A cut in production, a rise in oil prices will benefit the U.S. oil industry and our economy. According to the Treasury Department, millions of citizens will have their stimulus payments direct deposited beginning next week. Paper checks will start being mailed early next month. Some checks could take up to 5 months to reach recipients. Later this month, the IRS will have an online app called Get My Payment that will allow taxpayers who filed in either 2000 or 2019 to submit direct deposit information if they did not provide that information on their returns. hopefully some of that money, as shown in the cartoon, will trickle down and benefit our economy. This day in history. In 1963, the atomic submarine, the USS Thresher, sinks in the Atlantic Ocean, 300 miles off the coast of New England. The accident took the lives of all on board, which included 16 officers, 96 sailors, and 17 citizens. It is believed that a leak in a joint in the engine room caused a short circuit of critical electrical systems needed to bring the boat to the surface. Due to this tragedy, fundamental changes were made in the design and testing of submarines. In 1970, Paul McCartney announced the breakup of the Beatles. The Beatles had 20 #1 hits, and no other group or artist have sold more albums. In 1971, the United States table tennis team visits Communist China. This becomes known as ping pong diplomacy and is seen as a key turning point in relations with China. President Richard Nixon ordered this diplomacy. It was part of his realpolitik. He saw that China and the Soviet Union, despite being communist countries, were not getting along, and he thought that he could put increased diplomatic pressure on the Soviet Union by warming up to China. So this is the first step, this ping pong diplomacy. Later, President Nixon visited China, and that paved the way for normalizing relations, where the United States recognized China's right to exist. Well, that's our current events for this week. I'll be back on Monday. Until then, this is Mr. Ruska signing off from the home office. It's going to be a great weekend, so keep calm and keep on reading. We'll see you Monday.